Hey everyone, Noble Absinthe here, and welcome back to my Samurai Jack Retrospective. Today we're on episode 10. Jack and the Lava Monster. Let's get started. We start the episode off with Jack walking through windy plains. He's guided by an ominous voice that draws him in closer. He makes his way to a deserted wasteland that holds the remains of fallen warriors. Our hero is persuaded by this voice to continue further. He feels that this may be the work of Aku. We see him ascend a tall mountain and begin his adventure into the depths of a volcanic fortress. Jack has to traverse through an obstacle course of hazards to make his way to the boss lair. I didn't really want to bore you guys by going through each of them one by one, because I feel like that's overkill. But it's safe to say that Jack essentially goes through some Dark Souls level difficulty and comes out unscathed. There are some minor plot conveniences like shields to block incoming projectile rocks, but you don't really care about that because they do make sense in the grand scheme of things. You really just have to make it to the end of the episode to get the full picture. Jack then faces off against this mighty rock monster. This was the ominous voice that lured him here. After dealing a pretty deep wound onto the giant, Jack wishes to stop this pointless fight, and he puts away his sword. It's here we find out the truth of the lava monster. He was once a great hero from a prosperous land. Like Jack, he had a great life, but within an instant, Aku appeared and laid waste to his armies, and in an act of cruelty, sealed the Nordic hero into a crystal and buried him deep underground. The hero then used his own willpower to control the earth around him to make the body we now see before us. He inscribed all of the history of his fate and his people on a giant stone tablet that he keeps hidden from Aku. For him to make his way to his final resting place in Valhalla, he begs Jack to face him in battle to the end. The fight must be one where he uses all of his strength. He must be defeated by a warrior greater than himself. Jack understands, and the fight is on. After being defeated, his body erupts in a flash of light, and we see him return to his original form. However, time then catches up to the hero, and he's reduced to a feeble old man. He asks Jack for his sword, and is then whisked away by Valkyrie, where he is then reunited with his people in Valhalla. Jack inscribes the word free on the stone tablet, and the episode ends. For me, this was an amazing episode and worthy of a top 10 slot. The story is simple. Defeat a hero that is trapped in a stone body. But there is so much more you can read into it, and this episode has so many things you can draw parallels from. You can compare Jack to the hero in so many different ways, from their homeland to their fates and their sense of honor. This episode is really a matter of perspective. The episode begins with Jack assuming the voice calling to him is evil, and the traps he's passing through were just cowardly traps. This episode is peppered with Jack using words like monster and coward. The reality of the situation was that an old, noble hero wanted to be defeated by a warrior greater than himself. He needed to be put to rest, and Jack was the one to rise to the challenge. The traps were meant to weed out the weaklings. While his desire was selfish with intent, I can't blame the Nord for wanting to do this. How else was he going to find a suitable candidate? If they couldn't make their way past his trials, then how could they expect to face the real monster within? When Jack defeats him and he becomes an old man, it's an incredibly somber and beautifully played out scene. In death, the hero finds peace, but he must be defeated honorably. But as a contrast, our hero, Jack, he has to live to slay Aku to reclaim his honor. What I find really interesting about this episode is that it isn't really Jack's story. Jack is really just a proxy character. It could have been theoretically anyone that could have taken this golem down. It's just that our hero is the one to answer the call. But it does allow us to add just another checkmark to the badass things Jack has accomplished. He went toe-to-toe with this thing. I find episodes like this to be really rewatchable since they're encapsulated stories. I'm a complete sucker for tragic heroes, because you really get some interesting lore and background on them. You can sympathize with them, and it makes whatever conflict they're currently going through have a lot more weight behind it. This episode would just be alright if the lava monster was just a generic boss that craved battle. But we know it's a man who has been wronged. His thirst for battle is forged from both his heritage and his desperation to be freed. It would have been really easy to make this episode just be a goon of Aku that Jack has to take down, but there's context for this fight, so you're more invested in it. I have nothing else to say, but this episode just rocked. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, if you want to stay tuned on the series, please subscribe and tick that chime next to it to stay updated. Likes and shares are always appreciated, and I do read every comment, so please feel free to tell me how to improve this show and what else you'd like to see on this channel. I will be posting at the end of every video now the place you guys can vote for the best Samurai Jack episodes, so please cast your votes. Formatting will be explained in that video. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.